In today's video, I will be discussing about free consent. In the Indian Contract 1872 Act, the definition of consent is given in section 13, which states that it is when two or more persons agree upon the same thing and in the same manner. So the two people must agree to something in the same sense. Let's say, for example, A agrees to sell his car to B. A owes 3 cars and wants to sell the Maruti. B thinks he is buying his Honda. Here A and B have not agreed upon the same thing in the same sense. Hence there is no consent and subsequently no contract. Elements of free consent. Consent is considered to be free consent when the following factors are satisfied. It should be free from coercion. The contract should not be done under the pressure of under influence. The contract should be done without fraud. The contract should not be made through mispresentation. The contract should not be made by mistake. Importance of free consent. The contract made out of free consent protects the validity and the enforceability of an agreement. It provides a protecting shield to the parties from coercion, under influence, mispresentation, fraud, and mistake. It provides the parties to withstand their autonomous power to frame their running policy or the principle. The principle consensus ad ideum is followed. Mistake in the free consent. A mistake is described as an element which, when occurs in a contract, makes it void. There are two types of mistakes. Unilateral mistake. A mistake is said to be unilateral when one party is mistaken in the agreement. Bilateral. There are two types of bilateral mistake. Mutual mistake. A mistake is said to be mutual when both the parties misunderstood each other. Thus, it shows that there is a breach in the principle of the consent, free consent, and the contract is to be considered as void. Common mistake. Section 20 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 lays down the provision for common mistakes. A contract arising out of the common mistake is considered to be void. This type of mistakes is possessed by the parties, but this mistake is not the result of mutual mistake. It arises individually. Elements of violating free consent. Coercion. Coercion means using force to compel a person to enter into a contract. So force or threats are used to obtain the consent of the party under coercion. It is not a free consent. Section 15 of the Act describes coercion as committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the law in the IPC, unlawfully detaining or threatening to detain any property with the intention of causing any person to enter into a contract. Undue influence. Section 16 of the Act contains the definition of undue influence. It states that when the relations between the two parties are such that one party is in a position to dominate the other party and uses such influence to obtain an unfair advantage of the other party, it will be undue influence. The section also further describes how the person can abuse his authority in the following two ways. When a person holds real or even apparent authority over the other person, or if he is in a fiduciary relationship with the other person, he makes a contract with a person whose mental capacity is affected by age, illness, or distress. The unsoundness of mind can be temporary or permanent. Fraud. Fraud means deceit by one of the parties, i.e. when one of the parties deliberately makes false statements, so the mispresentation is done with full knowledge that it is not true, or recklessly without checking for the trueness. This is said to be fraudulent. It absolutely impairs free consent. So according to section 17, a fraud is when a party convinces other party to enter into an agreement by making false statements. Mispresentation. Section 18 deals with mispresentation. Mispresentation is also when a party makes a presentation that is false, inaccurate, incorrect, etc. The difference here is mispresentation is innocent and not intentional. The party making the statement believes it to be true. Mispresentation can be of three types. A person make a positive assertion believing it to be true. Any breach of duty gives the person committing it an advantage by misleading another, but the breach of duty is without any intent to deceive when one party causes the other party to make a mistake as to the subject matter of the contract, but this is done innocently and not intentionally. Thank you so much.